शरणं प्रपदे तव कर कमलवरे नखम् अद्भुत श्रृंगार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनो बिंगाम केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे कमलवरे नखाम अद्भुत श्रृंगार जय केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरहरि जय नरहरि नरहरि जय नरहरि जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे જોઈએ કે કીર્તન કરવાના છે કે ખબર નહીં ઓવર મે બી જઈએ આપણે
Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for attending this Rajbhog Aarti and thank you to the singers as well. Now there will be Bhagavad Gita lecture, I believe. Is there anybody who is going to give the Bhagavad Gita lecture? So we will have to make some arrangement over here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Lecture कौन देगा आज? सभी लेक्चर देते हैं आजकल। नहीं वो आपकी जैसी एवरी संडे होते हैं। हाँ वो शाम हाँ वो कल आया था सैटरडे को आया था। हाँ मेरा श्याम सुंदर है ना। इसको बंद कर देंगे। माइक बंद हो गया। Hare Krishna. Good boy, yeah? You want to sing? You want to sing on the mic? Till the person comes. Hare Krishna.
Sing Hare Krishna.
I will be with you.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Oh.
I will be with you. So if you falter, then I will help you.
Okay.
First you start Nama.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then Hare Krishna. Please always start.
And then
Yeah.
you continue with Hare Krishna, yeah?
Okay.
You also say next to me.
Yeah, you sing as well, Mira. Go. You sing.
They don't know the whole prayer, but
Yeah, I will be there. I will be there.
Okay. Okay. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Itanarine Om Krishnaya Bhutale Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Janarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Uravanatanarine Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Itanarine Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare. Keep singing.
Okay.
Mother, keep singing.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Mira le palm कितने हैं?
Let's get out.
It's in my jacket. My
Bed. चलो,
I'll put it back
मेरा
where
जो
it
जज
was.
मेरा जो जज
Okay, let's go. This way.
जो जज
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you and welcome to Bhaktivedanta Manor this afternoon. Thank you for choosing to be here. So, as Prabhuji mentioned, we'll be speaking on the Bhagavad Gita. Be a discussion, not a class. So, I really look forward to your participation this afternoon. Once again, thank you for being here. So, we'll start with a short bhajan called Jai Radha Madhava. As I sing, feel free to repeat after me. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Janita Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So today we're going to be discussing the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 2, text number 56. So before we go into it, we'll just invoke some auspicious prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading text number 56. So we'll just go for word translation. What you can do to follow along, if you have your phones or any kind of device, you can access the Bhagavad Gita on the internet. So it's chapter 2, verse 56. So I'll just go through word for word, and then you can repeat after me. Dukkeshu, in the threefold miseries. Anudvigna manaha, without being agitated in mind. Sukheshu, in happiness. Vigata spriha, without being interested. Vita, free from. Raga, attachment. Bhaya, fear. Krodha, and anger. Shtitadhi, whose mind is steady. Munihi, a sage. Uchyate, is called. Okay, so we're going to try that line by line, reading the entire verse. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, sukheshu vigata spriha, vitaraga bhaya krodha, shtitadhir munir uchyate. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, Sukheshu vigata spriha, vitaraga bhayat krodha, shtitadhir munir uchyate. One last time. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, Sukheshu vigata spriha, vitaraga bhaya krodha, shtitadhir muni uchyate. So we'll also read the translation of this verse. Again, you can just repeat after me. We'll do line by line. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries. or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called a stage of steady mind. So I'll just read the purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport. It's a little bit long, but we can follow. The word muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every muni has a different angle of vision, and unless a muni differs from other munis, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. Na sav rishir yasya matam na bhinnam, which is said in the Mahabharata. But a Sthita Dhir Muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from an ordinary Muni. The Sthita Dhir Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called Prashanta Nishesha Manoratantara, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculations and has come to the conclusion that Lord Shri Krishna or Vasudev is everything. Vasudevam sarvam iti samahatma sudurlabha. He is called a muni, fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna-conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries by the grace of the Lord are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry, even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. So before we share some things on this verse, we just invoked some blessings from our previous teachers. If you know the prayers, please recite along. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Malitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, let me start by asking everyone a question. Who here has read the Bhagavad Gita? Amazing. So, a few hands going up in the air. A little bit hesitatingly. Don't worry, I'm not going to test your knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. But so far, for those who are not so familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, it is set in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. There's two opposing armies, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And in this battlefield, as the two opposing parties are just about to do battle, Arjuna, one of the key players in this battle, he wants to see who he's about to fight. So Arjuna asks his charioteer, who happens to be Krishna, he says, please drive my chariot on the middle of the battlefield so I can see who I'm about to fight. And just as he's observing, his cousins, his teachers, his gurus, he suddenly realizes, why am I fighting those who I profess to love? And he puts down his weapons and says, I will not fight. So in the second chapter, Krishna then starts to answer a lot of Arjuna's questions and doubts. Arjuna expressed that, by fighting this battle, our family will be destroyed, the values that we live by, they will be destroyed, etc. So then Krishna starts to give some more information of why it's important that this battle still happens. And he talks that, he's saying that people will die. So then Krishna gives our first lesson in the Gita by saying that actually death happens. Just like we put on new clothes. Today you may be wearing a blue jumper. Yesterday you may have worn a red jumper. Or you may have been wearing trousers yesterday. Today you may have put on a dress. Similarly, the soul is actually putting on new bodies after each episode. So this is where we find ourselves. We're in chapter 2 where Krishna is giving some wisdom. And he talks about also doing our duty. All of us have some kind of duty. I see many parents here. That's parental duty. Many of us are also working in the outside world. You may be a doctor, you may be a teacher. We all have our duty to do in this world. So what Krishna is saying to Arjuna in response to his doubts, he's saying, you're a soldier. Don't abandon your duty. You have to fight. Whatever comes out of that battle is not in your hands. So he's telling him, abandon the result of this battle. Whatever will happen, whether that's success or failure. So we come to this specific section where now Arjuna has accepted those things, but then he asks a question. What are the symptoms of someone whose consciousness is on a higher platform in transcendence? So in the last verse, Krishna said, the first thing is we have to give up the desire to enjoy, to gratify our senses. So this is where we find ourselves. Now Krishna is giving, pardon me, he's giving the advice that on top of not being so attached to our desires, we also have to become free from being disturbed when things don't go right, or even when things go right. So let's get into that specifically. He talks about something called the threefold miseries. Does anybody know what those threefold miseries are? Death. Yep. So these are some of the miseries. Definitely. Anyone can name anything else that they may consider a misery? The body, mind. Okay. Anything else? Sickness. Yeah. We all get sick. Now it's the winter season. We're all catching colds. So disease is definitely one of them. Sorry? Problems from other people. So yes, you may interact with other people and they may cause you some distress, whether that's because they may say something that you may not like. Sometimes it's the act of violence. There's different kinds of miseries that we go through. Any one or two others that anybody wants to share? Old age, yes. We don't have a choice. We have to go through old age. As time goes by, our hair goes gray, our knees are hurting, back's hurting. All these are symptoms of old age, right? So again, it's one of those things that we don't have a choice. So the Gita tells us that there's 3 categories of miseries that we can classify all these miseries into. The first is the miseries arising from the body or the mind, which you kindly said. It's known as Adi Atmika. So these are things like bodily pains. You may have a headache. You may even be hungry right now, but yet you're choosing to sit here with us and share, discuss this space. There may be mental distresses. Your mind, you could be physically present here, but you may be thinking, my house is flooded, or this person's said this thing to me. All these distresses that pertain to the body and the mind. And it is said, actually, of all the biggest killers in the world, stress is set to become the biggest killer by the end of this decade. So it's one of those things that, yes, it causes us a lot of misery. The second is known as Adi Bhautika, miseries that's inflicted by other living beings. So this could be, attacks by others, but it also could be things like mosquito bites or bed bugs or, all kinds of living entities that can also cause us distress. How many times have you gone to a tropical holiday thinking you're going to have an amazing time in so-called paradise? But when you get there, you're bitten by mosquitoes. So even amongst when we're searching for, a nice time, sometimes these miseries affect us from other living entities. And the third classification is known as Adi Devika. This is miseries arising from natural catastrophes. So these are things like earthquakes, fires. I'm sure a lot of you follow the news. You saw the major fires that were happening in Los Angeles in the US. It's happening everywhere in the world. It could be things like accidents. Again, so many plane crashes in the last few days. These are things that naturally happen that we don't have a control of. And so a question may come up. All these are so-called bad things, right? Like, who wants to suffer in these kind of ways? And you may think, I'm a good person. Why do these bad things happen to good people? Anyone else had that question in their mind? Yes. Yeah? Why do bad things happen to good people? Any suggestions here? Karma. Yes, you hit the nail on the head. These, whatever we do, what as popular saying in culture goes, whatever goes around comes back around. So whatever we do, it's going to come back to us in a certain way. Later on in the Gita, Krishna will describe 3 types of karmas, and also how one's at a seed stage, whatever we do, it won't come back to us until later on. And it could be in a future lifetime as well. Sometimes we do something and we get the reaction immediately. So how can we tolerate these so-called distresses and miseries of life? I'm going to share with you 5 things. The first, as the lady kindly shared, is that we recognize that these things happen as a result of karma. But more importantly, we recognize that things will always come and go. And that includes miseries. So I always say to people, if you're going through a difficult time, don't worry, there'll be some relief. Exactly. That was actually something I was going to mention a little later. It's actually one of those things that, one of the most popular phrases that people want to get tattooed on their body. This too shall pass. Thank you for sharing. So yes, these things come and go. So yes, if you're going through some kind of distress in this world, don't worry. There's some happiness around the corner. The second thing, we recognize that these things are not happening to me, but they're happening to my body or to my mind. We say, I have a headache. Actually, my mind has a headache. My body has a headache. I may be feeling stressed. No, my mind is feeling stressed. It's not me. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. We say, my body. But who's that my? That's the spirit soul. We are not these things. So even when we suffer, somebody could hit us, or we're going through some kinds of pain, remember, this is things that are happening to your body, not to you. There's a difference between the two. The third thing, we recognize that I am due a certain amount of distress. So no matter what you do, according to the laws of karma, you will always get a certain amount of distress, and you will always get a certain amount of happiness in your life. So again, whether you try or not, you could try so hard for happiness, but if it's not written in your karma, how much happiness you're going to get, no matter how much you try, you're only going to squeeze the last drops of juice out of that apple. Our karma can be changed, and that's something I will get onto. But first, it does require us to recognize that actually a certain amount of distress is going to come to us. The fourth thing is we recognize that these are small in the grand context of things. So, have you ever... Who here has flown on a plane? I'm actually wondering, for those of you who haven't put their hands up, have you not traveled? Or are you just being shy today? But when you're on a plane, if you look out the window, you'll see that these buildings, these cars, all of them just look like a tiny speck. Why is that? Because they're not a tiny speck, right? Yes. Yes. Precisely. We've got a very intelligent young girl here. When you're so high up, all of these things become so small. So sometimes when we're going through these challenges, these distresses, one thing that can help is to zoom out, come onto that higher platform and see actually this, whatever I'm going through is just something small, or at least small in the context of my entire life. And the fifth thing is we recognize that the disappointment sometimes comes from our expectations. One of my mentors used to tell me that we can define disappointment as the difference between expectation and reality. So the reality could be whatever it is, but if we have an expectation that's so far apart, we're going to feel disappointed. Just like I mentioned, we may want to go on a holiday and think, actually, this is going to be a really nice time. I'll have the sun, something that's so rare. Actually, we're fortunate we have some sun today. But we have that expectation that I'm going to have such an amazing time. But we get there, like many countries I've been to when I've been on holiday, there's people who are looking to scam you, take your money. There's mosquitoes. Sometimes you get sick when you're abroad. That's the worst thing because, you really want to have a good time, but actually you get affected by bodily discomforts. So again, it's just about calibrating our expectations so that we are not so disappointed when the reality isn't what we quite expect. Now, there's a caveat to this. That doesn't mean that we have to tolerate every single situation, because many times in life, there'll be situations that we go through that we're not meant to tolerate. That could be things like abuse, for example. There's situations that are not just meant to be tolerated. Those situations we recognize with intelligence and also guidance. We have to have our support, whether that's through teachers, through friends, but it requires intelligence to understand that certain situations are not meant to be tolerated. So that's the only caveat, that it's not that every misery we tolerate. And as I was preparing for this discussion today, I decided to just check on Google, I just typed in how to tolerate, and I was seeing what Google suggested. This is the things that most people search for. Now, what do you think came up when I said how to tolerate? What are the things that people are searching for? How to tolerate wife. Certainly. It was the third most popular choice, how to tolerate other people or your spouse. Any other thoughts that what people are searching for? How to tolerate stress, definitely. Rude people, yes. Someone you hate is one of those things that people constantly search. That's a really good one, how to tolerate anger. Yeah, because sometimes we get overwhelmed by our own emotions, right? Really good one. I really like that one. There was certain other ones that came up. How to tolerate uncertainty, because we all want something that's sure in life. Like, nobody likes change. As many of you mentioned, how to tolerate people. Another one that came up, how to tolerate pain. How to tolerate cold showers. Sometimes ascetics are also searching on Google how to tolerate cold showers. How to tolerate stress, distress. And the last one is how to tolerate anxiety. Yeah, because again, death is something that we witness as we go through in life, And one of the Pandavas, Yudhishthir, asked Yamaraj a very famous question. He said, "What is the most amazing thing in this world?" Yamaraj said, "We witness death at every moment, We know somebody who's dying every day, but we never think that it's going to happen to me. We live life as if I will live forever." Yeah, you could argue the case for both. Yes. Yes. So yes, as we're tolerating these miseries of death, there's a famous phrase that was coined that said, if you ever find yourself going through hell, just keep going. Like I said, at some point that will finish and you'll go through some happiness. So just like distress will come and go, we also recognize that happiness is also temporary. As you were saying, this too shall pass. How many of you have ever thought about, how can I tolerate happiness? What does that even mean to you? Like if I say to you, you have to tolerate happiness, what does that mean to you? What was that? Appreciating. Okay. Live in the moment, so you're expressing gratitude. Really good suggestions. Yep.
Because we're born to be happy.
Exactly.
So if we are happy, then tolerating it doesn't
Seems counterintuitive.
yeah,
Yes.
counterintuitive.
If we're born to be happy, then how can we tolerate happiness? Any other thoughts that come to mind when I say to you, you have to tolerate happiness? Say again? Stay neutral. Do you think that's something that we should be aspiring for, staying neutral? You're in two minds. Control our emotions. So again, a young, intelligent gentleman, he has got it spot on. It's not that we're not happy, when things go our way. It's not that we experience this happiness, but it's that we don't become overconfident. We don't become overexcited. Yes.
So is there a difference between happiness and peace then?
You could say that, yes. Because it depends on your definition of happiness. A lot of people associate happiness with that overjoy. It's not about that we don't experience joy, but it's like how much are you affected when things go right.
Maybe like if you're really happy, the reason to tolerate it is it may end.
Exactly.
Because
And-
if it's happiness and distress,
Yes,
at one point you're going to be distressed. So you should tolerate it.
exactly.
It's going to end.
Exactly. And that's it, How many of you have come across a book called The Secret? Yeah? So if you've read that book, famous book by Rhonda Byrne, the idea is that you can manifest anything as long as you try hard enough, and if you really have that mindset that I can achieve this. Now, for those of you who have read it, or even the principle that I've just mentioned, what do you think about that? Do you think that if you really want to manifest something, that is possible? Yes?
I don't know. People's circumstances are vastly different.
Yes.
Some are born rich, some are born poor.
Hmm.
The rich obviously can manifest, but the poor and the vulnerable and the needy and the people with learning disabilities or medical conditions, possible, but maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, there's many self-made millionaires who weren't born with a silver spoon. So you could make the argument that it is possible, even for those who are not so well off, And there's many examples of self-made millionaires in this world who have really done well. So the Vedic perspective on The Secret is that, yes, having that mindset that I can manifest will certainly help and will certainly get you far, but it's not complete, because the second missing link in that principle is karma. Because remember, we all have a certain allotment. And in one of the Upanishads, Sri Ishopanishad, there's a verse that says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tyena tyaktena bhunjita ma grida kasya svidhanam. And in this verse it is said that one should accept only those things which are necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. So we all have a quota. So to the extent that we want to manifest, it will manifest as long as that's in our quota. That's in our karma. But not beyond that. And so, how can we tolerate that happiness when it comes? How can we make sure we don't get overjoyed? Again, I'm going to share 5 things. The first is that we're not attached to the result of our endeavors. So, even if something is in our quota, it doesn't mean that I just sit at home, watch TV, and suddenly whatever's in my quota is going to come to me. We still have to endeavor. But through that endeavor, we don't become attached to the result. So I still do my job, I still endeavor to manifest. We do all these things, But if it comes, great. If it doesn't, equally great. Because remember, we all have a quota. The second thing, don't give up what's best for you for what feels good in the moment. I'll say that again. Don't give up what's best for you for what feels good in the moment. For me, when I heard this the first time, it really blew me away, because how many times have we forgotten actually what we really desire, what, those important things in life, just because something feels good in the moment. And there was a very famous experiment done by Harvard University. I mean, I'm sure you all have heard of Harvard. They monitored a bunch of children over their lifetimes. So they started the experiment by giving each children one marshmallow. And they said, you can have this marshmallow now, but if you wait 20 minutes, we'll give you 2 marshmallows. And what they found in that experiment is that those children who waited 20 minutes to get the extra marshmallow, they were willing to tolerate just that immediate gratification in order to get more later on. They tracked them throughout life. And what they found is that those children who waited, they actually did much better in life. So again, it gives us a clue that it's not all about that instant gratification that we can get. Sometimes, and this leads me to my third suggestion, we can take a moment to pause. We may be so overwhelmed with the desire in the moment, but can we just press the pause button and reflect, is this something that I really need? Or am I just doing this because it feels good in the moment? And so when we pause, what that allows us to do is act on the basis of our values rather than on our immediate desires. And our values go beyond our immediate desires, Like I may feel like having a pizza right now, right? Who doesn't like a pizza here? Yes. Oh wow, so you're a healthy eater. You don't like pizza. I'm sure you have, was it paneer that you like? Some other dishes? What's your favorite food? Aloo paratha. Nice. So, we all have our favorite foods that we love, but we may also have a value that says, I want to be healthy. And sometimes those things don't align. And so if we take a moment to pause, we can act according to our values rather than just what our immediate desires tell us. And it's difficult, don't get me wrong, because we're now living in a world where everything has become instant. We've got instant messaging, we've got WhatsApp, Telegram, we've got instant deliveries, Amazon Prime, Uber Eats, Deliveroo. All of these things are leading us to a culture where everything needs to come to us in the moment of a finger click. So the fourth thing I want to share with you is stop searching for destination happiness. And I don't mean destination happiness as, if I go to a holiday, then I'll be happy. What I mean is this principle where as long as I hit this goal, then I'll be happy. If I then do this, then I'll be happy. Like we always have a specific destination in mind that only if I achieve that, then I'll be happy. So yes, we can recognize that actually in our own endeavor, there's also happiness to be achieved. It's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. And finally, we recognize that actually whatever good that comes for us, it's the Lord's mercy. So we have to stop listening to our monkey mind, stop looking for those immediate pleasures. The mind is described like a chimp. A chimp almost just wants things, whatever comes to it. But doesn't mean that we have to listen to that chimp mind of ours. And with this understanding that, everything, whether that's good or bad, will come, but will also go, we can actually become fearless. This verse talked about becoming free from fear and anger. And when the inevitable happens, when something good comes or when something bad comes, we don't become angry. We don't start asking this, why is this happening to me? Because we recognize that it's going to come anyway. This is life. And similarly, when good things come, we don't become overjoyed because we remember that actually this is just what I was due. So we don't become overjoyed. And we can see this in the life of Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. You know, when he was a young man, you know, he had a wife, children, and he was working in a pharmacy. There was many hardships that he went through. You know, his business was suffering a lot of financial challenges. And because of that, you know, he was struggling to look after his family. And one time, his wife traded his copy of the Bhagavad Gita for biscuits. And then, you know, when he eventually, you know, gave up family life, he tried to set up a movement in India. That didn't work out. You know, he was trying to print literature. That wasn't working. And then he decided to follow his spiritual master's order, which is to come and share Krishna consciousness in the language of English. And so as he was traveling from India to the US, again, he had 3 heart attacks on board that ship. And then he tried to reach out. Once he got to the US, he tried to reach out to his godbrothers in India. None of them were willing to help. And even as he was setting up temples, he was setting up a publishing company, you know, there's so many people who were trying to cheat him. So he went through all these hardships, but he tolerated. And that allowed him that when actually he was getting success, you know, he ended up, you know, when he, at the time of his passing, he had set up 108 temples across the entire world. You know, there were so many good things that were coming as a result of those temples, of the books that were being shared. Yeah, he wasn't feeling elated. He was really focused on how he can continue sharing this wisdom that will help others. So he was actually very compassionate. And he became fearless. Yes. Yes. So if I understood your question correctly, how do we let go of our ego and being jealous, etc.? Is that the question?
Yeah, be right, but sometimes we have to let go. Because it's our ego, so we don't let go.
We have to choose our battles carefully and recognize that each battle is part of a long-term war. You know, as the young lady mentioned, when we zoom out, the buildings become a speck. So there'll be times where, yes, you are right, but you have to consider that, is being right important, or is that relationship important, for example? Yeah, I'm not denying that you're right or wrong, you know. Like, as you say, you're quite clear that is the right thing to do. Every situation has to be judged according to its own merit. But there'll be certain times where you focusing on being right expends so much of your energy when actually just saying, okay, fine, whatever, will allow you to focus on so many other things that you could do in your life.
So sometimes peace is superior.
Yes, yes, exactly. Good question. So yes, we have to tolerate miseries. We also have to tolerate happiness. And to the extent that we can tolerate the good things that come to us, when actually we go through these miseries, we'll also be able to tolerate them. And that's what really it means to be, as in the verse it says, Shtita Dhir Muni, a sage of steady mind. And later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will give 3 things that we have to also recognize. In the 5th chapter, he says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachati. So in this verse, he talks about three things, establishing the truth, really. So the first, he says, he's the ultimate beneficiary. So everything that we do actually ultimately goes to him. The second, he establishes that he's the supreme. So this is the principle that not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. And the third is that he's our benefactor and well-wisher. And so when we recognize these things, like he's our best friend and he wants the best for us, we recognize that whatever happens in our life is ultimately happening for my own good. He's the supreme, so he has the power to do these things, but he's also our well-wisher.
Is this only though if one is chanting 16 rounds and following the four recognition principles?
Absolutely not.
So it's whether you're not or whether you are.
Yes, so this is where our free will comes to it. Because we have free will, if we choose to turn away from him, he also allows us to. And then we're at the mercy of our karma. So then, whatever good and bad happens is because of our own doing. Because remember, whatever goes around comes back around. So he doesn't intervene because we've chosen to say to him, I'm okay for now. Yes. So, to summarize, we talked about the threefold miseries. There are different kinds of miseries that we all go through. And we recognize that these will come on their own accord, regardless of how much we try. And similarly, the pleasures will also come. No matter how much we try, if it's in our quota, then we will get it. But we also recognize that these are all temporaries. Both happinesses and the distresses, they're temporary. They will come and they will go. We shared some tips on how we can tolerate both the distresses that come. So just as a recap, anyone remember any of those ways that we can tolerate miseries? We shared 5 things. Any that stood out to you, perhaps? Okay, yes, we can take shelter. Yes, zoom out.
See things in the proper
Perspective. Very nice. Distance provides perspective. Very nice. Anybody else want to share any other ways that we can tolerate misery that we've shared today? Or any, as the gentleman here said, we can take shelter of chanting and, call out to the Lord. Anything else? Managing our own emotions. Yes, absolutely. We don't get overwhelmed when we go through these emotions. And ultimately, we recognize that whatever's happening is because of the Lord's mercy. And yes, we similarly shared tips to tolerate the happiness that comes to us. Things like we're not attached to the result. Any other things that stood out to you in terms of how we tolerate happiness? Being kind. That's a really nice one. Yes. Yeah. Very nice. Thank you for sharing.
kind to yourself and kind to others.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and actually when we're kind, when things happen, whether good or bad, we see them from a good perspective. So thank you so much for sharing. Anything else? Okay. One other ones that I just want to highlight is we pause. We don't act on the instincts that come to us, but actually we act on the basis of our values. And finally, we recognize that everything comes from the Lord and He's our well-wisher. So we recognize that, ultimately everything is happening for a good reason. On that note, if I've said anything that has offended anybody, or if I've said anything wrong, I request your apologies and forgiveness. But I hope you've also been able to benefit from something that I've shared with you. Thank you all very much. Any questions anybody else has before we close off? Okay, thank you so much for being here and being present today. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hello. I'm gonna go watch that when I get home now. Who's playing on me?
Don't use those here, they're very sharp.
I know.
Those are really sharp.
I love these. No,
They're too sharp.
That's the ones I play at home.
Please.
I play this at home. Okay, I'll have both. I'll see which one I like better.